fine.
Great. Why? What have you heard?
Blake, over here, what you signing? Blake, over here, what you signing? Blake.
I feel something is brewing and something's about to explode. It was also influenced by Blake Lively's narrative.
Before any legal context entered the conversation, Blake Lively's public image was carefully constructed and widely reinforced by media coverage, brand partnerships, and long-term visibility in Hollywood. She was consistently framed as approachable, intelligent, and culturally polished, an actress who balanced mainstream success with a sense of personal authenticity. Her alignment with major fashion houses and lifestyle brands positioned her as dependable and low risk. Unlike many celebrities associated with controversy-driven attention cycles, Blake's image leaned towards stability and discretion. Interviews often emphasize professionalism, humor, and distance from public conflict, which helped solidify a reputation rooted in trust rather than spectacle. Media narratives surrounding Blake also benefited from continuity. Over time, outlets treated her not just as an actress, but as a figure representing taste, restraint, and media savvy. This consistency mattered because credibility in public life is cumulative. When legal scrutiny later emerged, it didn't land on a blank slate. It landed on a persona that had been reinforced for years. That credibility influenced how early coverage was framed. Journalists and commentators often contextualized developments through her established character, rather than through isolated allegations or claims. In reputational terms, Blake entered the situation with a form of narrative capital, one that shaped tone, pacing, and assumptions in the earliest stages of public discussion.
New court filings are pulling Taylor Swift directly into the Blake Lively-Justin Baldoni legal war, revealing private texts that, if true, show Swift maybe siding with Lively, maybe then not, reacting behind the scenes as the controversy was about to explode.
As media attention around Blake Lively increased, coverage began expanding beyond her individual actions to include her high-profile relationships. In celebrity reporting, personal associations often function as contextual signals, shaping how a figure is interpreted during moments of scrutiny. For Blake, this meant that her long-standing connections within elite entertainment circles became part of the narrative landscape. Among these associations, her friendship with Taylor Swift drew particular attention, not because of direct involvement, but because of what the relationship symbolized in media framing. Taylor Swift's public image as a controlled, strategic communicator led some outlets to view the association as reinforcing Blake's positioning within a carefully managed social and professional network. The focus was less on collaboration and more on alignment. Media narratives often use these connections to frame Blake as embedded within an influential ecosystem, one where messaging, visibility, and silence are rarely accidental. This framing subtly shifted coverage from isolated legal context toward broader questions of influence and media awareness, with Blake remaining the central subject of analysis. Importantly, these associations were presented as contextual background rather than causal factors. Coverage generally avoided attributing responsibility to her connections, instead using them to illustrate the environment Blake operates within, one shaped by access, shared public relations instincts, and an understanding of how narratives evolve under pressure. As reporting around Blake Lively's situation progressed, attention gradually shifted from public statements and appearances to references involving private message exchanges. These messages did not initially appear as a central focus, but entered the conversation through secondary reporting, commentary, and contextual analysis tied to broader media narratives. Coverage emphasized the timing of these messages rather than their content. Their emergence coincided with heightened public interest, making them notable as part of the information environment surrounding Blake rather than as standalone developments. In this sense, the messages functioned as narrative signals, suggesting behind-the-scenes communication during a period of increased scrutiny.
Taylor Swift and Blake Lively text messages are finally here.
What drew attention was not the existence of private messaging itself, which is common in high-profile circles, but the way these exchanges were framed in relation to Blake's decision-making and awareness. Media outlets often position the messages as illustrative, offering insight into how information may have been processed privately while public silence or restraint was maintained. Importantly, reporting generally stopped short of treating the messages as definitive or evidentiary. Instead, they were presented as contextual elements that added texture to Blake Lively's coverage, reinforcing her central role in the unfolding narrative without altering the formal boundaries of the legal discussion. As references to private messages circulated, interpretation quickly became the dominant frame, with Blake Lively positioned at the center of that process. Rather than focusing solely on what was said, commentators and journalists analyzed how the messages fit into Blake's broader public conduct, timing, and strategic choices. Media coverage often approached the messages through inferred intent. Analysts asked how Blake's role, visibility, and prior media behavior aligned with the existence of private communications, using her established reputation as the primary lens. This placed emphasis on interpretation over verification, with Blake's actions becoming the anchor point for discussion. Audience reactions followed a similar pattern. Online discourse rarely treated the messages in isolation, instead folding them into existing perceptions of Blake as a calculated or media-aware figure. Supportive interpretations highlighted professionalism and discretion, while more skeptical readings framed the messages as part of narrative management. In both cases, Blake remained the focal subject. This phase marked a shift in coverage from reporting developments to evaluating meaning. The messages became less about their factual boundaries and more about what they suggested regarding Blake Lively's approach to public scrutiny, reinforcing her centrality in how the situation was understood and debated. As coverage diversified across platforms, differences in tone became increasingly noticeable, with Blake Lively's perceived intent taking precedence over the specific details being reported. Rather than centering analysis on the messages themselves, many outlets framed the story around Blake's level of agency within the situation. Some publications adopted a restrained, contextual approach, emphasizing Blake's experience in managing public attention and interpreting her actions as consistent with long-established media discipline. In these cases, her influence was portrayed as structural, rooted in familiarity with public scrutiny rather than active intervention. Other outlets leaned into a more speculative framing, highlighting Blake's visibility, connections, and timing as indicators of influence.
Baldoni had been waging a smear campaign against Lively. Swift writing, "I think this expletive knows something is coming because he's gotten out his tiny violin."
This coverage focused less on documented actions and more on inferred capability, suggesting that her position alone carried narrative weight. The distinction lay not in accusation, but in emphasis. Across both approaches, Blake remained the central figure through which influence was assessed. The variation in framing revealed how media narratives can shift focus from concrete content to perceived power, illustrating how Blake Lively's role was interpreted differently depending on editorial perspective and audience expectations. Following the circulation of message-related reporting, public reaction became an increasingly visible component of Blake Lively's coverage. Online discourse expanded across social platforms, with discussions centering less on confirmed details and more on how the information fit existing perceptions of Blake's public persona. Social media narratives showed a clear split in tone. Some audiences interpreted the developments as consistent with Blake's long-standing image of discretion and control, viewing the situation as an example of heightened scrutiny rather than substantive change. Others expressed curiosity or skepticism, framing the reports as moments that invited closer examination of her media presence. Importantly, engagement levels increased without a corresponding shift toward consensus. Commentary remained speculative, often driven by interpretation rather than new information. Blake continued to function as the focal point, with reactions tied to her perceived intentions, silence, and past behavior. This phase illustrated how audience sentiment can evolve without formal developments. For Blake Lively, public reaction reflected a recalibration rather than a reversal, an adjustment in how viewers assessed her role within the narrative, while still anchoring discussion around her credibility and visibility. As message-related narratives circulated, their intersection with Blake Lively's legal situation remained largely indirect, yet they quickly became a focal point in public discussion. Media coverage consistently distinguished between the formal legal framework, court filings, motions, and evidentiary standards, and the broader reputational conversation occurring in parallel. Reported messages were highlighted in reporting and commentary as contextual material rather than as documents submitted or recognized in court. This distinction was emphasized repeatedly to clarify that these narratives were interpretive rather than legally binding. From a strictly legal perspective, the messages functioned more as background context than as material influence. Coverage reinforced that they were not presented as evidence, did not directly inform judicial decisions, and could not be considered determinative of any legal outcome. By maintaining this separation, reporting preserved the procedural boundaries between what was publicly discussed and what carried official legal weight. reducing the risk of conflating speculation with formal adjudication. Reputationally, however, the presence of message-related narratives had a subtler yet meaningful effect. The discussion shaped perceptions of Blake's composure, timing, and strategic awareness during a period of scrutiny. Observers, commentators, and audiences used these reports to gauge how she navigated public and private communication, even in the absence of any direct legal consequences. The focus was less on culpability and more on perception management, how Blake's behavior and choices reflected on her credibility, influence, and ability to maintain a controlled public image under pressure. This created a dual-track effect. Legally, the process remained procedural and unaffected. Reputationally, Blake's situation was reframed through associative interpretation. Media coverage, online discourse, and public speculation collectively shaped the environment in which her legal posture was evaluated, illustrating how peripheral narratives can affect perception without altering formal outcomes. In essence, the messages served as a lens through which her actions were analyzed, contributing to a nuanced understanding of Blake Lively as both a public figure and a subject of legal scrutiny. As public attention around Blake Lively intensified, her approach to visibility became a central element in how narratives unfolded. Rather than addressing message-related reports directly, Blake maintained a measured public presence, offering minimal statements and carefully selecting when and where to appear. This deliberate restraint shaped both the pace and tone of media coverage, emphasizing observation over reaction. Media outlets frequently interpreted this silence as intentional, framing it as consistent with Blake's established communication style. Over the years, she has cultivated a reputation for managing her public image through selective engagement rather than immediate response. By avoiding direct commentary, she limited opportunities for speculation to escalate, allowing ongoing discussions to circulate without being reinforced by new statements. When public appearances did occur, coverage treated them as symbolic rather than reactive. Analysts and journalists focused on timing, setting, and demeanor, interpreting even minor actions as signals about her composure and approach. The emphasis on continuity and normalcy subtly redirected media momentum, shifting attention from conjecture towards structured observation of her behavior. This controlled strategy ultimately influenced the rhythm of coverage. Without frequent or reactive statements to drive headlines, public attention gradually dispersed, demonstrating how strategic silence can operate as an active tool for managing scrutiny. For Blake Lively, this approach reinforced her long-term reputation for discretion while shaping the environment in which her public narrative continued to evolve.
Oh, that's too bad. She's so funny.
She's funny.
Before recent legal attention, Blake Lively's public image was defined by consistency, polish, and strategic visibility. She first gained attention with Gossip Girl, a role that introduced her to millions as a relatable yet aspirational figure. Over the years, she transitioned into film, taking roles in projects like The Age of Adeline and A Simple Favor, cultivating an image that balanced mainstream appeal with professionalism. Unlike many peers, Lively avoided frequent controversy or oversharing personal matters. Her public appearances, interviews, and brand partnerships followed a predictable and curated pattern, measured, polished, and aligned with her long-term career trajectory. Even on social media, posts emphasize select moments, often highlighting fashion, family, or professional milestones, rather than reactive commentary or personal disputes. This steady approach positioned her as a low-risk public figure. Studios, media outlets, and brands associated her with reliability and poise rather than volatility. For audiences, Blake Lively became a figure rarely seen in public conflict or media drama. Understanding this pre-existing image is crucial because it shapes how her current silence is perceived, not as unusual in Hollywood, but as a contrast to the consistent engagement viewers once expected. Public information about Blake Lively's legal situation is limited and carefully curated. Most details come from court filings, verified news reports, and indirect statements rather than personal disclosure. This creates a scenario where the facts are technical, but interpretation fills in gaps for the public. Coverage has focused on procedural updates, legal timelines, and professional positioning rather than personal narrative. No extended interviews or detailed statements from Blake Lively herself have appeared, maintaining a barrier between public perception and private strategy. This approach is common in high-profile cases. Celebrities often rely on attorneys and official channels to communicate, reducing risk that any statement could be misinterpreted or used in court. In Blake Lively's case, the lack of direct commentary means the public story is shaped almost entirely by external sources: journalists, analysts, and legal observers. The result is a technical narrative rather than an emotional one. Without personal framing, the discussion naturally shifts from specific legal developments to her silence itself, making restraint a central element of the story. Blake Lively's silence has followed a clear and consistent timeline. From the moment her legal situation became public, she has avoided interviews, social media statements, or informal commentary. This approach has been maintained even as media coverage and online discussion intensified. Over time, this pattern became more visible. There were no partial acknowledgments, no indirect comments, and no change in tone. Her communication, when necessary, has remained strictly formal or professional. Unlike some public figures who adjust their messaging in response to headlines, Lively's silence has been steady, suggesting a deliberate strategy implemented early. Viewed over time, the pattern reinforces the idea that silence itself is a choice. Rather than reacting to developments, Blake Lively has allowed the story to progress without personal amplification, treating public attention as something to be managed through discretion rather than commentary. Media coverage has largely interpreted Blake Lively's silence rather than reporting new facts. Some outlets frame it as a calculated, professional decision aligned with standard Hollywood practices, emphasizing legal caution and brand management. In this perspective, her silence is a protective measure, consistent with how high-profile figures handle sensitive matters. Other outlets treat the absence of commentary as a narrative vacuum, revisiting past interviews, career milestones, and public behavior to speculate on what her silence might indicate. Importantly, these analyses are cautious, avoiding defamatory or accusatory language while acknowledging audience curiosity. A common theme across reporting is that her silence is intentional. Media has generally avoided framing it as neglect or disorganization. Instead, the narrative focuses on how the absence of statements influences perception, shaping the story even in the absence of direct input. Audience reaction has been mixed but measured. Without statements from Lively, viewers have filled in the gaps based on expectations or prior knowledge of her public persona. On social media, discussions typically split into two camps. Some see her silence as responsible and professional, aligning with legal caution, while others view it as distancing, expressing curiosity or mild frustration over the lack of clarification. Her pre-existing reputation has played a role in shaping these reactions. Supporters reference her controlled, polished image, interpreting the absence as strategic. Critics often highlight the contrast between past openness and current restraint. Despite this, engagement has remained relatively contained compared to highly reactive celebrity situations, suggesting that silence has attracted attention without generating extreme backlash. Overall, public response underscores uncertainty more than judgment, highlighting how non-communication can still influence perception in meaningful ways. Strategic silence is a familiar approach in Hollywood, particularly when legal matters intersect with public image. In this context, Blake Lively's decision to remain quiet aligns with established industry practices rather than standing apart from them. High-profile figures often reduce personal visibility during sensitive periods to limit narrative expansion. Within the entertainment industry, silence is frequently used to allow legal processes to unfold without additional public influence. Statements, even carefully worded ones, can introduce risk or create unintended interpretations. Blake Lively's approach reflects this understanding, placing restraint above immediate clarification. What distinguishes her case is how closely the silence mirrors her broader career behavior. Blake Lively has historically favored controlled exposure and selective communication. Viewed through that lens, the current silence appears consistent with long-term patterns rather than a sudden tactical shift. Industry analysts often note that strategic silence works best when a public figure already has a stable reputation. Blake Lively's prior image provides that foundation, allowing her absence from commentary to feel measured rather than reactive. By fitting into a recognizable Hollywood pattern, Blake Lively's silence becomes less about secrecy and more about alignment with professional norms. This framing helps explain why, despite ongoing discussion, her approach has remained largely defensible within industry conversations. From a legal standpoint, Blake Lively's silence may offer clear advantages. Avoiding public statements reduces the risk of comments being misinterpreted, taken out of context, or referenced in legal proceedings. In situations where details are still evolving, restraint can help preserve flexibility in legal strategy. Reputationally, staying quiet can prevent short-term controversy from escalating. By not engaging directly with speculation or commentary, Blake Lively avoids reinforcing headlines or amplifying unverified narratives. This approach can limit how long certain discussions remain active in the public cycle. Silence can also signal confidence and stability. For some audiences and industry observers, the absence of reactive messaging suggests that the situation is being handled through appropriate channels. In Blake Lively's case, this aligns with her established image of professionalism and control. Another potential benefit is narrative containment. Without ongoing statements, media coverage remains tied to factual updates rather than emotional responses. This can help keep the focus narrow and reduce the likelihood of the story expanding into broader personal or career-related debates. Taken together, these factors suggest that Blake Lively's decision to stay quiet may function as a protective measure, legally cautious and reputationally conservative, aimed at minimizing long-term impact rather than addressing immediate public curiosity. While silence can be protective, it also carries potential risks for Blake Lively. One of the primary concerns is loss of narrative control. In the absence of direct communication, interpretations are shaped almost entirely by external voices, including media analysis and online speculation. Extended silence can also create distance from the audience. Viewers who are accustomed to a degree of transparency may perceive the lack of commentary as disengagement, even if no such intent exists. Over time, this gap can subtly affect public trust or familiarity. Another risk lies in misinformation. Without periodic clarification, inaccurate assumptions can circulate unchecked. Even when coverage remains cautious, repeated speculation can harden into perceived consensus, making later corrections more difficult. There is also a timing consideration. If silence continues for too long, any eventual statement may be received with heightened scrutiny. Audiences and media may expect comprehensive explanations, increasing pressure on how and when Blake Lively chooses to re-engage publicly. These risks do not negate the benefits of staying quiet, but they highlight the balance involved. Blake Lively's ongoing public absence reduces immediate exposure, while simultaneously introducing longer-term challenges related to perception and expectation. Blake Lively's ongoing public silence has implications that extend beyond legal concerns into her broader professional landscape. From a branding perspective, her carefully curated image of professionalism and consistency remains largely intact, as she avoids reactive or sensationalist commentary. This helps preserve her marketability with studios, fashion partnerships, and media collaborations. Career-wise, limited visibility during this period may slow immediate public engagement, but it does not appear to threaten long-term opportunities. Historically, her selective communication style has positioned her as reliable and composed, qualities valued in high-profile projects and endorsements. Within the industry, Blake Lively's approach may reinforce perceptions of strategic awareness. Colleagues, agents, and executives often view measured public conduct as a sign of stability, which can support continued collaborations. At the same time, prolonged absence from public discourse could reduce media momentum, which may subtly affect narrative control and influence over ongoing cultural relevance. Overall, while there are trade-offs, Blake Lively's silence largely aligns with her established professional identity. The move prioritizes careful management of reputation, demonstrating an understanding of both immediate and long-term career strategy in a highly scrutinized environment. Looking ahead, Blake Lively's path involves several potential trajectories, shaped by both legal developments and public perception. One possibility is that she continues her measured silence until the situation reaches a formal resolution, maintaining her controlled image and minimizing reputational risk. Alternatively, selective communication could occur through formal channels, such as statements issued via legal representatives or carefully managed media interviews. This would allow her to clarify factual points without entering reactive cycles of speculation. Another scenario involves gradual re-engagement with her audience through professional work, film releases, endorsements, or public appearances, which can shift attention from the legal context back to career accomplishments. Even limited visibility can signal stability and reinforce her established brand. Finally, broader industry or public dynamics may influence her approach. Shifts in media focus, legal developments, or public interest could require adaptation, balancing discretion with the need to manage evolving narratives. Overall, Blake Lively's next steps are likely to reflect a combination of legal prudence, brand strategy, and audience awareness. Each potential scenario emphasizes continuity with her long-standing approach. Deliberate, measured, and strategically aligned with her public and professional identity. Blake Lively spent nearly 2 decades building one of Hollywood's most carefully crafted public images. Rising to fame as Serena van der Woodsen on Gossip Girl, she became a cultural icon who represented both aspiration and accessibility. Her career trajectory seemed flawless. She transitioned seamlessly from teen television to respected film roles in projects like The Age of Adeline and A Simple Favor. Beyond acting, Lively established herself as a fashion influencer, red carpet fixture, and lifestyle brand in her own right. Her marriage to Ryan Reynolds added another dimension to her public persona. Their playful social media exchanges and apparent family devotion made them one of Hollywood's most beloved couples. Brand partnerships followed, with major companies seeking her endorsement for everything from fashion to beauty products. By 2024, Blake Lively represented a specific type of celebrity success, someone who had navigated fame since her early 20s without major scandal, maintaining a reputation as professional, talented, and relatable. The public largely viewed her as someone who had earned her place in Hollywood's upper echelon. This carefully cultivated image would make what came next even more jarring, a dramatic shift in public perception that seemed to happen almost overnight, challenging everything audiences thought they knew about the actress. It Ends With Us arrived with massive expectations. The film adapted Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel, which had sold millions of copies and built a devoted fan base eager to see the story brought to screen. The book tackled domestic violence with nuance and emotional depth, making it both commercially successful and culturally significant. For Blake Lively, this project represented more than just another role. She signed on not only as the lead actress, but also as a producer, giving her creative control and deeper investment in the film's success. Playing Lily Bloom, a florist navigating an abusive relationship, offered Lively the opportunity to showcase dramatic range while championing an important social message. The production paired her with Justin Baldoni, who served as both her co-star and the film's director. On paper, the collaboration seemed promising. 2 Hollywood figures committed to bringing a sensitive story to life with care and authenticity. Industry observers predicted the film would elevate Lively's career to new heights, positioning her as both a serious dramatic actress and a producer championing meaningful content. The built-in audience virtually guaranteed box office success. What no one anticipated was that this career-defining project would instead become the catalyst for the most challenging period of Blake Lively's public life. In December 2024, Blake Lively filed a legal complaint that sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. The document detailed allegations against Justin Baldoni and others involved in the production of It Ends With Us, claiming workplace misconduct and subsequent retaliation. The complaint outlined specific allegations of inappropriate behavior during filming, including claims of unwanted advances, unprofessional comments, and boundary violations that Lively said created a hostile work environment. According to the filing, she raised these concerns through official channels, requesting meetings that included her husband Ryan Reynolds to address the issues. But the legal action went beyond typical workplace grievance claims. Lively alleged that after she voiced concerns, a coordinated public relations campaign was orchestrated to preemptively damage her reputation. The complaint included references to text messages and communications that allegedly showed deliberate planning to undermine her public image. The filing claimed this campaign aimed to discredit her before she could speak publicly about her experiences, essentially weaponizing public perception as a form of professional retaliation. The timing was significant. The complaint came months after the film's release, during a period when Lively had already faced intense public criticism for her promotional approach. This legal filing reframed the entire narrative, suggesting that public opinion hadn't formed organically, but had been strategically influenced. Before the legal complaint, Blake Lively faced an unprecedented wave of public criticism during the film's promotional campaign in summer 2024. Social media users scrutinized her interviews, press appearances, and marketing approach with an intensity that seemed to come from nowhere. Critics accused her of promoting the film too lightheartedly, focusing on fashion and aesthetics, rather than the serious subject matter of domestic violence. Clips from interviews were dissected and shared widely, with commentators suggesting she was tone-deaf and insensitive. Old interviews resurfaced, reframed through a negative lens that painted her as dismissive or difficult. The backlash intensified rapidly. Hashtags trended criticizing her behavior. TikTok videos analyzing her body language and word choices went viral, What started as criticism of promotional tactics evolved into broader character attacks, with users questioning her authenticity and professionalism. Notably, much of this criticism emerged seemingly simultaneously across multiple platforms, creating what appeared to be an organic groundswell of public disapproval. The speed and coordination of the backlash struck some observers as unusual, though at the time, it was widely accepted as genuine public sentiment. Lively remained largely silent during this period, which many interpreted as arrogance or indifference. Her public image, cultivated over nearly 2 decades, appeared to crumble within weeks. Blake Lively's legal complaint made a striking allegation that the public backlash she experienced wasn't organic, but orchestrated. The filing claimed a deliberate crisis management strategy was deployed to damage her reputation before she could speak about her workplace experiences. According to the complaint, this alleged campaign involved hiring public relations professionals specifically to manipulate public perception. The filing referenced communications that purportedly showed planning discussions about how to bury Lively's credibility and shift narratives in the media. The complaint suggested tactics included planting negative stories, amplifying critical social media content, and ensuring that Lively's version of events would be preemptively discredited. The goal, according to the filing, was to make her appear unlikable and untrustworthy, so any future allegations she might make would be dismissed. Lively's legal team included exhibits they claimed demonstrated this coordination: text messages, emails, and contracts with crisis PR firms. The complaint argued this wasn't typical reputation management, but an aggressive campaign designed to harm her professionally and personally. These allegations raise serious questions about how celebrity reputations are managed and manipulated. If true, they suggested that what millions perceived as authentic public opinion had been strategically manufactured, a sobering possibility about the nature of modern media influence. The legal filing created an immediate split in public and industry opinion. Some who had previously criticized Blake Lively reconsidered their positions, questioning whether they'd been manipulated. Others remained skeptical, viewing the complaint as a strategic move by someone trying to rehabilitate a damaged image. Within Hollywood, reactions varied significantly. Some industry figures publicly expressed support for Lively, praising her courage in coming forward with workplace allegations. Others maintained loyalty to Baldoni or chose to remain silent, unwilling to take sides in an ongoing legal dispute. The response on social media proved equally divided. Supporters argued that Lively had been subjected to a coordinated attack and deserved a fair hearing. They pointed to the suspicious timing and intensity of the original backlash as evidence supporting her claims. Meanwhile, critics maintained their original stance, suggesting the legal action was simply damage control rather than legitimate grievance. Media coverage reflected this division. Some outlets re-examined their previous reporting, acknowledging they may have amplified a manufactured narrative. Others continued questioning Lively's promotional choices and workplace behavior, arguing that valid criticism shouldn't be dismissed as conspiracy. Legal experts weighed in on the broader implications, noting that proving a coordinated smear campaign in court would require substantial evidence and set significant precedents for how workplace retaliation cases are handled. The impact on Blake Lively's professional standing became evident almost immediately. Brand partnerships that had been central to her public persona grew noticeably quiet. Companies that once prominently featured her in campaigns seemed to distance themselves, adopting a wait-and-see approach as the controversy unfolded. Her social media presence, once characterized by polished lifestyle content and playful engagement, shifted dramatically. Posts became less frequent, and the previously robust interaction with fans diminished significantly. The carefully cultivated image of accessibility and relatability had been fundamentally challenged. Industry opportunities appeared to contract as well. New project announcements that typically follow successful film releases were conspicuously absent. While no studios publicly stated they were avoiding working with Lively, the silence itself spoke volumes in an industry where momentum and perception drive decisions. The financial implications extended beyond lost endorsements. Her production company's ability to attract future projects potentially suffered, as investors and studios assess not just talent, but the marketability and public reception of attached talent. Perhaps most significantly, the intangible currency of Hollywood, likability and public goodwill, had been severely depleted. Whether the damage proves temporary or permanent remains unclear, but the contrast between her reputation before and after this controversy marks one of the most dramatic image shifts in recent entertainment history. As of early 2026, the legal proceedings remain ongoing, with both sides preparing their cases for what could become a lengthy court battle. The complaint has moved beyond initial filing stages, but resolution appears months or potentially years away. Legal experts note that cases involving workplace allegations and reputational harm typically involve complex discovery processes and extensive evidence review. For Blake Lively, the path forward involves navigating both legal proceedings and public perception simultaneously. Her team continues to present evidence supporting her claims, while her opponents maintain their denials and prepare counter-arguments. The court of law will ultimately determine legal responsibility, but the court of public opinion operates on different timelines and standards. The broader entertainment industry watches closely, recognizing that this case could set precedents for how workplace complaints are handled and how crisis management tactics are scrutinized. Questions about the ethics of strategic reputation campaigns have entered mainstream conversations about celebrity culture and media manipulation. Lively's career trajectory depends significantly on how the situation resolves. A legal victory could vindicate her claims and potentially restore her public image, while an unfavorable outcome might cement the damage already done. Regardless of the legal conclusion, rebuilding trust with audiences represents a substantial challenge. What remains certain is that Blake Lively's public image has been fundamentally altered. Whether she can successfully navigate this crisis and emerge with her career intact will define not just her future, but potentially influence how similar situations are handled across the entertainment industry. What started as a behind-the-scenes dispute on a movie set has now turned into one of Hollywood's most uncomfortable public trials. This isn't just about Blake Lively versus a co-star. It's about how a private conflict spiraled into a legal spectacle, dragging friendships, reputations, and even one of the most carefully protected celebrity images into the spotlight. As court filings became headlines and private messages became public evidence, the fallout spread far beyond the people actually named in the lawsuit. Careers were questioned, trust was strained, and Hollywood was reminded of one brutal truth. Once a lawsuit goes public, no one controls the narrative anymore. Before this case ever reached a courtroom, Blake Lively's reputation in Hollywood was carefully built and largely untouchable. She wasn't just known as an actress, she was positioned as a brand. From Gossip Girl to major studio films, Blake had cultivated an image that mixed talent, likability, and industry trust. She was seen as professional, media savvy, and someone studios felt safe backing. That's why It Ends With Us mattered so much. The project wasn't just another role. It was a high-profile adaptation with a massive built-in audience and serious emotional weight. Expectations were high, both commercially and culturally. The film was positioned as meaningful, sensitive, and socially relevant, placing extra pressure on everyone involved to get it right. Behind the scenes, the production brought together strong personalities, creative control, and enormous public interest. And when tensions reportedly emerged, they didn't stay contained. What should have been a prestige project quickly became something else entirely, the starting point of a conflict that would later spill far beyond the film itself.
They focused on proving her case in the court of law.
According to court filings, the conflict didn't begin with a single explosive moment. It built slowly, behind closed doors, during production. What was initially described as creative and professional disagreements allegedly evolved into something more serious. Blake Lively claims that certain on-set interactions crossed boundaries and created an environment she believed was inappropriate and unsafe. From her perspective, those concerns were raised internally and not resolved.
I think he feels like he wants the truth to come out, but you never feel good when people are being mean and not saying, things that are kind. So.
On the other side, Justin Baldoni has firmly denied those allegations. His legal response frames the situation very differently, describing the issues as standard production conflicts that were later reframed once tensions escalated. Baldoni's team argues that disagreements over tone, control, and decision-making were mischaracterized after the fact, turning professional friction into legal accusations. This is the critical turning point of the entire case. What might have remained a private dispute between collaborators instead entered the legal system. Once lawyers were involved, every email, text message, and meeting suddenly mattered. Internal conversations became potential evidence. Intentions were questioned. Narratives hardened. And from that moment on, the conflict stopped being about resolving a problem and became about proving a version of events. That shift is what transformed a behind-the-scenes disagreement into a lawsuit with consequences far beyond the film itself. At the center of this case are two very different versions of the same working relationship. Blake Lively's lawsuit alleges that during production, boundaries were crossed and that certain behavior created a hostile and unsafe work environment. Her legal filings argue that these issues were not isolated incidents, but part of a broader pattern that affected her ability to work comfortably on set. She also claims that when concerns were raised, the response was inadequate, allowing the situation to escalate rather than resolve. Justin Baldoni's response rejects those claims entirely. His defense maintains that no harassment occurred and that all interactions were professional and appropriate. Baldoni's legal team argues that the accusations are a misrepresentation of normal creative disagreements and workplace tension that can arise on large productions. From their perspective, what's being framed as misconduct was actually conflict over creative control, tone, and leadership, not personal wrongdoing. Both sides rely heavily on documentation. Messages, emails, and internal communications are used to support each narrative. Where Blake's team points to language and context they say show harm, Baldoni's team highlights the same materials to argue consent, professionalism, and misunderstanding. This is why the case has become so complex. It isn't built around a single clear-cut incident, but competing interpretations of the same moments. And legally, that makes the outcome far less predictable, because the court isn't deciding how people felt, but what can be proven. Even before the trial began, this dispute was no longer confined to courtrooms or private meetings. Key filings, including emails and text messages, were leaked or unsealed, giving the media direct access to sensitive details. Headlines quickly amplified every claim and counterclaim, turning legal documents into public narratives. Tabloids and entertainment outlets framed the story with dramatic angles, highlighting tension, alleged misconduct, and celebrity involvement. What might have been a contained professional disagreement became a full-blown media spectacle. Every statement, every leaked conversation was dissected and debated online. This public exposure had a ripple effect. Fans speculated, social media trended with opinions, and private relationships, including friendships between stars, suddenly became part of the story. The case stopped being about workplace conflicts and instead became about public perception, branding, and reputation management. Once the cameras and headlines entered the equation, controlling the narrative became nearly impossible. Taylor Swift's name entered the trial unexpectedly through private messages she exchanged with Blake Lively. These texts, initially intended as personal conversations between friends, were unsealed as part of the legal proceedings. Suddenly, Swift, a global superstar known for protecting her privacy, was pulled into a dispute she never intended to be public. The media quickly highlighted these exchanges, framing them as evidence of shifting loyalties, tension, or influence. Headlines suggested that even Swift's private opinions could affect the dynamics of the case, creating a narrative that extended far beyond the courtroom. For Swift, the fallout was immediate. Fans and critics debated her role, questioning her friendship and her response. What was meant to be private became public, and her carefully cultivated image of discretion and control was suddenly vulnerable. The case illustrated a harsh reality of celebrity culture. Even indirect involvement can carry real consequences when personal communications are exposed. In short, what should have remained a personal friendship now became a public symbol of the stakes and risks of high-profile legal battles. As the trial and leaks unfolded, public perception of both Blake Lively and Taylor Swift began to shift. For Blake, the once polished Hollywood image of professionalism and grace started to fracture. Headlines focused on conflict, drama, and leaked communications, painting her as combative and embroiled in chaos rather than a respected creative force. Social media amplified every misstep, and fans began questioning her judgment, both on set and in how she handled friendships. Taylor Swift, though not directly part of the lawsuit, also felt the backlash. Her private messages with Blake being made public challenged her carefully maintained reputation for privacy and control. Fans debated her loyalty, her judgment, and even her role in the narrative, creating tension around her public persona that she had spent years cultivating. The optics of the trial made one thing clear. In high-profile legal battles, the courtroom isn't the only place where consequences are felt. Reputation, trust, and public perception can be just as fragile and just as damaging as any legal verdict. What started as a private dispute had now turned into a spectacle affecting the careers and images of multiple A-list celebrities. Beyond the drama, the Blake Lively trial exposes a broader truth about Hollywood and celebrity culture. Lawsuits between public figures aren't just legal battles, they're high-stakes exercises in reputation management. Privacy becomes almost impossible to protect, and even indirect involvement can have far-reaching consequences. As Taylor Swift's experience shows, this case also highlights the power of media and PR in shaping narratives. Leaks, selective headlines, and social media speculation can sometimes matter more than the facts themselves. Careers, friendships, and public trust are vulnerable to interpretation and exposure, often before the court has even made a decision. Ultimately, the trial isn't just about who was right or wrong on set. It's a cautionary tale about how legal disputes, once public, ripple through relationships, brands, and public perception, reminding everyone in Hollywood that in the age of instant headlines and social media, no one controls the story entirely. In the end, this isn't just Blake Lively's story or even Taylor Swift's. It's a warning for anyone whose private conflicts could become public spectacles.
I don't know where that dialogue starts or ends, and I don't know whose fault it is.
You're far better than me as a father. I love you, son.
I love you, Daddy.
The glamorous facade of Hollywood is crumbling once again, and this time, the spotlight is squarely on Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. What started as whispers of tension behind the scenes of It Ends With Us has spiraled into a massive legal battle, with Baldoni now facing a staggering 86 lawsuits, many of which are countersuits tied to Lively's shocking accusations. The public, initially swayed by Blake's claims, is now being forced to confront a very different narrative, as Baldoni and his high-profile legal team, led by the tenacious Brian Friedman, prepare for war. Friedman, renowned for his aggressive defense strategies, hasn't held back in his pursuit of justice for Justin Baldoni. The truth will come out, he declared at a recent press conference, signaling that Baldoni's team is prepared to challenge the allegations head-on. Their efforts took an unprecedented turn, with the release of behind-the-scenes footage from the set of It Ends With Us, capturing a lighthearted moment where Blake and Justin can be seen dancing together.
But I think you should start talking.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Still rolling.
Don't give it to them. They want it, don't give it to them.
Score.
Just keep restraint.
The clip has sent shockwaves through the internet, sparking debates about its implications. Some fans see it as a turning point in Baldoni's defense. One commented, "This footage completely changes the narrative. It's hard to believe someone would accuse Justin of harassment when you see how playful and comfortable Blake seems in this clip." Others echoed this sentiment, with another stating, "Finally, some context. Baldoni deserves to have his side of the story heard." A third added, "If this is what their interactions look like on set, I can't understand how these accusations hold up." The footage has fueled a heated conversation online, with many now questioning whether it offers a drastically different perspective on the dynamics between the two during production, challenging the validity of the harassment claims that have since emerged. But Baldoni isn't stopping at just releasing footage. In a bold move to clear his name and provide transparency, he's launched a dedicated website that will house every scrap of correspondence between him and Lively, emails, texts, and more, all available for public viewing. "This isn't just about defending myself," Baldoni said in a statement. "It's about setting the record straight and standing up for the truth." As this drama unfolds, the public is left to wonder, is this a calculated defense strategy, or is something deeper and far more complex at play? One thing is for certain, the truth behind this drama promises to be as explosive as the allegations themselves. The controversy surrounding It Ends With Us has only deepened with the emergence of new evidence that casts doubt on the initial narrative. Blake Lively's accusations of sexual harassment, including her claim that Baldoni entered her trailer uninvited while she was pumping milk, sparked outrage across social media, with many fans quick to condemn Baldoni for allegedly violating her private space. The backlash was swift, and several texts supporting Lively's narrative were quickly circulated, further fueling the fire. But as the legal battle heats up, the story is becoming far more complicated. Baldoni has fought back aggressively, filing a massive $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times for allegedly distorting the truth and omitting critical information. His legal team has provided screenshots that reveal a completely different version of events. According to these texts, it was Lively who actually invited Baldoni into her trailer while she was pumping milk. Baldoni also clarified that pumping was something Lively often did openly, even during production meetings, challenging the portrayal of their interactions as invasive or inappropriate. This new evidence dramatically shifts the context of their relationship during filming and raises serious questions about the authenticity of Lively's claims. But the twists don't stop there. As the drama continues to unfold, new accusations have surfaced that have only further complicated the situation. In a surprising turn, Lively accused Baldoni of objectifying her and her character by referring to them as sexy. However, evidence provided by Baldoni's legal team appears to directly challenge this claim. Screenshots of text exchanges between Lively and Baldoni reveal that Lively herself described certain wardrobe choices as sire, notably during discussions about her character's costume. One text allegedly reads, "We'll show you both ways, but beanie is much sexier," lending weight to Baldoni's argument that such comments were part of a collaborative process, not an attempt at objectifying her. These new revelations have thrown the entire situation into chaos, with both sides digging in their heels. Fans and industry insiders are now left grappling with the question, who is telling the truth? As both Baldoni and Lively continue to release their respective versions of events, the public is left to question the authenticity of the accusations and whether this story is more than just a simple case of workplace misconduct. Behind the scenes of It Ends With Us, tensions extended beyond the harassment allegations. As with many film productions, intimate scenes between the lead actors required careful coordination to ensure safety and comfort. Intimacy coordinators, professionals tasked with setting boundaries and guiding actors through these moments, are essential in such cases. For this film, two respected coordinators, Chelsea Carey and Lizzie Talbot, were enlisted to manage these sensitive aspects of production. However, a screenshot from a conversation involving Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively, and a producer revealed challenges in this process. The messages indicate that Lively was initially reluctant to meet with the intimacy coordinator prior to filming, despite Baldoni's efforts to facilitate the meeting. In one message, Baldoni expressed concerns that her decision could disrupt the workflow, although he offered to meet with the coordinator himself. The producer ultimately deferred to Lively's preference, suggesting that Baldoni walk her through the plan directly. This hesitation reportedly created additional tension on set, as both Baldoni and Lively had to navigate the lack of pre-established boundaries during filming. Reflecting on the experience, Baldoni emphasized the importance of communication and preparation in such scenarios, while Lively later admitted that she regretted not consulting with the coordinators earlier. She acknowledged that sometimes valuable lessons come through experience, even in high-pressure environments like a film set. As the production of It Ends With Us advanced, on-set tensions reportedly reached new heights. According to claims from Baldoni's team, Blake Lively began taking increasing control over the film's creative direction, leaving Baldoni feeling sidelined. A recently surfaced screenshot of a private conversation between Baldoni and the film's editorial team sheds light on his growing frustration. In the exchange, Baldoni asked the editors if they had reviewed Lively's updated cuts of the film. To his surprise, he was informed that neither he nor the director was permitted to view the actress's edits, with the directive coming directly from Sony. "Wow, okay then," Baldoni replied, adding pointedly, "The editors and director aren't allowed to look at an actress's cut. Got it. Well, here we go." Despite his evident disappointment, Baldoni concluded the discussion with an admirable restraint, vowing, "We will keep taking the high road." These restrictions reportedly left Baldoni feeling excluded from the creative process of a project he was supposed to lead. By the time the film entered its final stages of production, Baldoni allegedly referred to the movie's cut as a Blake Lively version, as much of his input was reportedly ignored. While Lively attempted to smooth things over by assuring Baldoni that she had incorporated a fair amount of his original suggestions, the damage to their collaborative dynamic had already been done. This growing creative conflict reportedly caused significant emotional strain for Baldoni, who struggled with the extent of Lively's influence and its impact on the final product. Still, he maintained a professional demeanor, choosing to focus on preserving a respectful working relationship amid the mounting drama. Yet despite the tension and the ongoing creative battles, Baldoni reportedly held no ill will toward Lively. Remarkably, in a series of private conversations with his PR team, Baldoni made it clear that he had no personal animosity toward her, even amid the mounting drama. He emphasized that he had always spoken positively about Lively and the rest of the cast and insisted that the drama would not affect his personal feelings. Instead of focusing on the on-set turmoil, Baldoni chose to remain professional, shifting his attention to his future projects. His calm and measured response to the entire situation suggested that he was prepared to move past the conflict and focus on the future. Even after the sexual harassment allegations emerged and the legal battle intensified, Baldoni's demeanor remained largely composed, with reports indicating that he was keen on putting the drama behind him and focusing on his next steps in Hollywood. Their support has resonated with many of Baldoni's fans, particularly in his home state of Hawaii, where he recently visited amid the ongoing legal battle. Videos of Baldoni interacting with fans on the island have gone viral, showing a calm and grounded demeanor despite the storm surrounding him. Fans have rallied behind him, with hashtags like Justice for Justin and Stand with Baldoni trending on social media. Many have praised his transparency in releasing evidence and his commitment to clearing his name without resorting to inflammatory rhetoric. Prominent media personalities like Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens have weighed in on the controversy, with both voicing skepticism about the allegations against Baldoni. During a recent podcast episode, Kelly stated, "We've seen time and again how quickly people are judged without the full story being known. Due process is a cornerstone of justice, and it's troubling how often it's bypassed in the court of public opinion." Owens echoed these sentiments in a social media post, writing, "Accusations have become weapons in Hollywood, destroying reputations without evidence. Justin Baldoni's case is yet another example of how dangerous this trend has become." Despite this level-headed approach, the situation remains far from resolved. With legal documents still being reviewed and Lively's representatives yet to respond to the latest claims, the public waits for further updates. As the legal battle continues to unfold, the question remains, which side, if either, will emerge victorious from this high-profile clash of personalities and public perceptions? Only time will tell. For now, this saga remains one of Hollywood's most explosive controversies, with both sides digging in their heels and the public captivated by every twist and turn. While the outcome is uncertain, the unwavering support Baldoni is receiving from his fans and notable figures suggests he isn't facing this battle alone. One thing is clear, this story is far from over.
Thing to try. I mean, what is the next
What does
5
that
years
mean?
of? Well, in terms of trying. I mean, you apparently are not going to sing if you didn't think you can sing.
I sang in this movie.
Well,
Did you
yeah.
see the movie?
I did see the movie, but I mean,
Blake Lively was once the epitome of Hollywood's golden girl, a charming, relatable actress who effortlessly captured the hearts of millions. With her breakout role in Gossip Girl, followed by a successful film career, Blake seemed like she was untouchable. Her marriage to actor Ryan Reynolds was the stuff of fairy tales, and her online presence felt genuine, connecting her to fans across the world. Everyone loved Blake, or at least they thought they did. But recently, things have taken a turn. The same woman who once graced magazine covers and social media feeds with nothing but positivity now finds herself caught in a series of controversies that have caused fans and Hollywood insiders to question everything they once believed. From legal battles and workplace drama to affair rumors and ties to the powerful Harvey Weinstein, Blake's downfall has been nothing short of dramatic. It all started with a legal dispute that no one saw coming. Blake Lively and actor Justin Baldoni became the center of a sexual harassment and bullying scandal that shook Hollywood. Lively claimed she endured emotional distress while working with Baldoni, accusing him of creating a toxic environment on set. As the legal battle played out in the public eye, many began to question Blake's motives. Was she the victim in this situation, or was she using the situation for her own gain? The details of the case were never fully disclosed, leaving fans to speculate. Hollywood, for the most part, stayed silent. But things quickly escalated when the story hit the mainstream media. Blake, once known for her bubbly, girl-next-door persona, suddenly found herself at the center of a storm. Hollywood insiders began distancing themselves from her, and the backlash was swift. Directors, producers, and even co-stars who once spoke highly of her seemed to fade into the background. The accusations against Blake were serious, but the way the situation was handled also raised eyebrows. The legal dispute with Baldoni left a lot of unanswered questions and cast Blake's character into doubt. She went from being Hollywood's sweetheart to a polarizing figure almost overnight. As if that wasn't enough, Justin Baldoni's lawyer took things a step further by bringing receipts into the case.
Was hired, you can see Leslie Sloan planting stories. We have evidence of it. The young kids would call it receipts. We call it evidence, and it's all over the place. There are text messages that refute every single thing in that complaint. And it's just disgusting when you go after someone, you try to destroy their life, and actually the evidence shows something different. Blake Lively was no victim here. She was in control, she was in power, and she took over this film.
They provided evidence that contradicted Blake's version of events, shedding light on the behind-the-scenes drama. These documents and text messages painted a different picture of the relationship between the two. In the clip, the lawyer elaborates on the case, stating, "We have evidence that contradicts her claims and proves that she was not the victim in this situation. The texts and emails we've uncovered tell a very different story, and we are confident they will change the public's perception of what actually transpired." This added even more fuel to the fire, turning what started as a legal dispute into a full-blown public spectacle. But it didn't stop there. As the receipts became public, the public's view of Blake began to shift even more drastically. Fans who once stood by her side started questioning the motives behind her allegations. Some wondered if Blake had fabricated the entire story to get attention, while others debated whether the truth had been skewed by both parties. It's hard to believe someone who has been painted as the perfect star all this time could suddenly turn into such a controversial figure, said celebrity analyst Rachel Turner. Meanwhile, experts started analyzing Blake's interactions with Baldoni. Body language analysts quickly pointed out the tension between them during interviews, where both seemed uncomfortable. Some noted Blake's defensive posture, and others mentioned her seemingly closed-off gestures, signs that she was hiding something. On the flip side, Baldoni's responses were described as carefully controlled, leading many to wonder if there was more going on behind the scenes than what was being revealed to the public. Body language experts weren't the only ones speaking out. Fans, too, started noticing something was off. "They didn't look like they were on the same page at all," said one Twitter user. This only added fuel to the fire, intensifying the drama surrounding Blake's public image. Meanwhile, in 2016, Blake's controversial interview with journalist Kirsty Flaw resurfaced. What initially seemed like a harmless exchange suddenly became a talking point, as many viewers felt that Blake's attitude toward Flay was condescending and dismissive. The interview, once overlooked, now served as evidence that Blake might not be the friendly and relatable star everyone thought she was.
First of all, congrats on your little bump. Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
They are kind of bumps, aren't they?
No, not bumps. The lovely lady lumps. Check it out.
Thank you.
In the clip, Fleo recalls, "It was clear that Blake didn't seem to understand the concerns I was raising. Her responses felt rehearsed, and her body language spoke volumes about her discomfort with the questions. Watching that interview again, it's clear Blake wasn't as empathetic as she could have been," said celebrity critic Sarah Allen. "She acted like she was above it all, and that didn't sit well with many viewers." The lack of self-awareness shown in that interview seemed to be a stark contrast to the Blake fans once adored, and the negativity surrounding her began to pile up. The very interview that once seemed like a simple press appearance now became a symbol of her alleged superiority complex, and the public turned against her even further. The fallout from this resurfaced interview didn't end there. Hollywood stars, who had once supported Blake, began voicing their opinions about her actions. Some, like Jennifer Lawrence, expressed disappointment. "She's not the woman I thought she was. It's heartbreaking to see how someone can change so quickly," Lawrence said during an interview at the time. Others were more cryptic, such as Emma Stone, who simply stated, "Hollywood can be a tough place, and sometimes the truth is a lot murkier than it seems." These comments reflected a growing disillusionment with Blake from peers who once praised her and enjoyed a camaraderie with her. The scrutiny intensified as these celebrities distanced themselves from Blake, further deepening her spiral. As Blake's public image continued to crumble, social media backlash followed. The once adored actress was now the subject of memes, viral posts, and heated online debates. Fans were torn, with some continuing to defend her, while others felt betrayed by her behavior. "Blake used to be one of my favorite actresses, but now, I'm not sure I can even look at her the same way," said one disappointed fan on Twitter. "I thought she was better than this." The sentiment online mirrored the shift in Hollywood's reaction. People who once supported her were now questioning her actions and motives. Then came the rumors. Blake Lively was accused of being involved in covering up Hugh Jackman's affair with his ex-wife, Deborah Lee Furness. While there was no concrete proof, the speculation was enough to stir the pot. Gossip columns and social media platforms were flooded with whispers suggesting Blake had played a role in protecting Jackman's reputation. Some argued that she might have been trying to shield a powerful Hollywood figure from scandal, while others questioned whether Blake had lost touch with reality. Was she really willing to protect someone like Jackman at any cost? There's been a lot of talk about Blake being involved, said celebrity gossip columnist Ella Smith. But it's all just speculation at this point. Either way, it doesn't help her image. Whether the rumors were true or not, they only made matters worse for Blake. What was once a solid career now felt like a ticking time bomb, and the whispers only grew louder with every passing day. Of course, no scandal involving Blake would be complete without some tie-ins to the Weinstein scandal. Blake's comments about Harvey Weinstein stirred up additional controversy, as many felt that she was minimizing the significance of the abuse and harassment that so many others had faced. While Blake spoke out against the power dynamics in Hollywood, her statements seemed to fall short of a full endorsement of the That's Me Too movement. Critics argued that her words didn't carry the weight they should have, considering the scale of the allegations against Weinstein. She didn't speak out in the way we hoped she would, said Hollywood insider Samantha Lee. She tried to tread carefully, but it came off as dismissive. As the public learned more about Weinstein's predatory behavior, Blake's remarks felt like a betrayal to many. People began to question if her failure to fully address the issue was a calculated move to protect her career or a misstep in an increasingly complex situation. The backlash was severe, and Hollywood's tolerance for such lukewarm responses seemed to diminish with every new revelation about the scandal. Amidst all of the rumors, legal battles, and public scrutiny, Blake's support system remained relatively strong. Her husband, Ryan Reynolds, continued to publicly stand by her side, but even that didn't stop the public from reacting. "I don't know if even Ryan can save her now," one critic tweeted. Despite Reynolds' unwavering support, the overall sentiment in the entertainment industry seemed to shift. Celebrities like Reynolds and others who once praised her now found themselves in a more complicated position. As Blake's controversies piled up, some fans chose to stay loyal, while others made their feelings known. "I've been following Blake for years, but I'm just not sure I can defend her anymore," said another fan. "She's lost my respect." It became clear that no matter how strong her personal relationships were, Blake's professional reputation had been severely damaged. Now, one of the biggest blows to her image came when Blake's social media following began to shrink. The decline in product sales tied to her brand and presence was noticeable. Once a social media darling, Blake now faced criticism from fans and influencers alike. Her Instagram, once filled with curated pictures of her family and stylish moments, now seemed more desperate as fans turned on her. What was once an outpouring of love and admiration became filled with questions and accusations. Was she really the person her fans thought she was? The once vibrant and positive persona had been replaced with a much darker, more complicated image. "It's sad to watch. She's really lost her sparkle," said one longtime follower. "She just doesn't seem like the same Blake we all fell in love with." As Blake Lively's public image continues to crumble, one question looms large. Is there any way back? Can she make a comeback? Or has Hollywood permanently turned its back on her? The rise and fall of Blake Lively is a cautionary tale about the fragile nature of fame and how quickly things can go wrong. One minute, you're the beloved star everyone looks up to, and the next, you're facing a series of scandals and a crumbling career. Time will tell if Blake can recover or if she's forever locked in the shadows of her own controversies. One thing's for certain, though. Hollywood has a way of moving on, and those who fall hard often find it difficult to get back up. Whether Blake will be able to redeem herself remains to be seen, but for now, her downfall stands as a stark reminder of the unpredictable nature of fame.